in the way of your commandments, for you will enlarge my heart. You know that its shape, it's still kind of nothing. It's in a way formless and void. But the potter's never ever disgusted with the clay, or angry or frustrated. You see, nothing depends on the clay. It all depends on the potter. Nothing matters but the touch of his hand. You notice all the water that the potter uses? It's interesting how often God refers to water in His Word. It says that He washes us with the water of His Word. It says He waters us every moment. And I know it refers to the Holy Spirit, how He wants to bring forth out of our innermost being rivers of living water. But the part that I like best is in Genesis, where God began to create everything. It says that the Spirit, His precious Holy Spirit, hovered over the surface of the waters. That means like what a mother hen does to her baby chicks, just in protection and love. And sometimes I feel like I hover over the surface of these waters, just delighting in the touch and in the change. And I can hear Him. I hear Him. He says, Grace, stand up. I'm raising you up. You are becoming all that I have planned for you to be. Stand up. He wants us standing tall. He wants our heads erect. You know, in my home, when I was little, and even now, we never talked about much of anything. Things were bad and dirty, so we didn't talk about them, you know. Come Sunday, we never, ever had chicken breast for dinner. We had chicken chest. So things were bad, you know, and I always button up to the top, you know, and wear turtlenecks. There was just a lot of shame for me. Well, a few months ago now, Jesus whispered and He said, Grace, let me see your form. Your form is so lovely. He said, how about if we unbutton your top button? He said, your neck is like a tower of ivory, on which hangs 1,000 shields, all the shields of the mighty men of Israel. That's how He wants us to be, tall, with our heads held high. Forgive me if my hands get a little bit shaky, but it's because you're watching me. But it looks pretty good, doesn't it? We spend a lot of time thinking about what we look like, don't we? I mean, I hope nobody noticed, but after worship, I quick put a little lipstick on so I'd look good. And earlier, there were about, 3 or 4 of us in the bathroom, and we're all standing in front of the mirror, and I noticed how we were all doing like this. And nothing changed. But we just kept doing that. So we'd look good, huh? And I don't know about you men, but when my Bert gets in a swimming suit, his stomach disappears and his chest gets real big. We do. We concentrate on what we look like, what the outer appearance looks like, don't we? But not the potter. The potter is ever looking into the heart of the vessel. And there is something in this vessel that you can't see. Only the potter sees it. It could be just a little air bubble, it probably is, but sometimes it's a tiny little grain of sand, but larger than it should be. And it causes me trouble when I raise the wall. If it's a bubble and left in the firing, the wall will crack and the whole thing will be ruined and just thrown out. Those little things have to come out. I like to think of them as sin. And I don't believe anymore that sin is so much what we do on the outside. I believe that sin, it's those secret things that we have in our hearts. I mean, we all have them, don't we? Fear, lies we believe. And I wonder if our greatest sin might not be unbelief. I always had a real hard time believing that I was worth very much. I mean, there was a big X that I put through my senior picture in high school. And I remember noticing that all the girls that were popular and admired, they were those cute little cheerleader types, Well, I got broad shoulders and long arms, and I used to weigh quite a bit more than I do now. But I remember thinking, boy, if I just got skinny, then I'd be little. Then people would notice me and think that I'm pretty. So my senior year in high school, I became anorexic. And for years, into many years of our marriage, I struggled with bulimia. Well, that, and then believing that I was rejected by my husband, I wasn't left with a whole lot. But Jesus, He was looking into my heart. He knew those foul spirits that held me captive with their lies. And they were exposed and cast out. He set me free. Amen. And now, He is removing the sin that I have lived with for ever so long. That unbelief that had turned to self-hate. Now, when He whispers, I can hear Him. He speaks the truth, Jesus does, because He is truth. You know what He calls me? He calls me His darling. Sometimes He calls me my Lady Grace. He tells me that I'm His dove, His perfect one. He says, darling, you are altogether lovely, and in you there is no blemish. Well, and it's been about 31 years now, but I'm finally starting to gain weight. Only trouble is, you never gain it where you want to, do you? I mean, I could use some right here, and I'm getting it right here. Jesus says that my belly button looks like a goblet, and it does. Only He says it's filled with mixed wine. And I look down, and there's starting to be this kind of mound here. But He says, darling, Your belly is like a heap of wheat surrounded by lilies. Well, that's quite a picture to a Minnesota farmer. He says, darling, I have 60 queens and 80 concubines and maidens without number. But you are one. There is none like you. You know, one time I was up real early. Everybody else was still sleeping and it was dark outside. I loved to get up early to be with them. And I was sitting at my kitchen table, just singing this little song to him, telling him how much I loved him. And I don't have much of a voice, but he likes it. And this little song, it went like this. There is none like you. No one else can touch my heart like you do. If I search through all eternity long, I'd find no one else like you. Well, I was just singing that to him over and over and over. And all of a sudden, this rich quietness came over me. And my singing stopped. And then I heard music deep inside of me. He was singing to me. And this is what he sang. There is none like you. No one else can touch my heart like you do. If I search through all eternity long, I'd find no one else like you. There is no one else like you. He says, you ravish my heart. You make my heart beat faster with a single glance of your eyes. That's how he feels about me, about you. You know, he doesn't care what it is. He just wants to go in and ever so gently take it out and get rid of it. He puts it behind his back. He just wants us to know the truth about who he is and what we mean to him. You know, sometimes he's so real like that, isn't he? And then it seems like the very next day, he's gone, he's hidden. Where are you, Lord? I thought I could see you and I'm blind. I thought my hearing was fine, but it seems like I'm deaf. But he's right there, just hiding. And in the silence, he's speaking. Look at the potter's hand. You know what it's saying? In the language of the deaf, in sign language, this says, I love you. He's right there, working all things together for good. Even when we don't believe, even when we don't trust him, he's there.